The mission of the U.S. Marshals Museum is to form a national center of heritage and legacy, disseminate knowledge and inspire appreciation for the accomplishments of the U.S. Marshals Service. The United States Marshals have been at the heart of the history of the United States, and our goal is to memorialize the importance of the Marshals to American history. And so our goal and our objective is to bring that truth home to the American people.
It is the oldest federal law enforcement agency in the United States, yet few people know or fully understand its substantial role in American history. Since its establishment by Congress in 1789, the United States Marshals Service has consistently been involved in many of our nation's most historic events. The Whiskey Rebellion of 1794, enforcing the Fugitive Slave Law of 1850, and then, more than 100 years later, serving on the front lines of the Civil Rights Movement and protecting African American students during school desegregation. Today, the U.S. Marshals Service remains a highly relevant agency in charge of running the Witness Security Program, transporting federal prisoners, and ensuring the effective operation of the judicial system.
The motto of the Marshals Service is justice, integrity, and service. We're part of the Department of Justice, and our judicial system is about justice, doing what is right. Integrity, because we operate with integrity to make sure the system is running properly, and service. This is a service to our nation, to the people of our nation. I don't think most people know what the Marshals Service does. If you read about it, it's because something went wrong. And we make this happen so that nothing goes wrong. So the general public generally doesn't know what we're doing. And that's good because things were running well.
After more than 200 years of unheralded law enforcement, people will soon get the chance to learn more about the vital role the U.S. Marshals Service plays in our nation's past, present, and future. Here in Fort Smith, Arkansas, plans are underway to erect the U.S. Marshals Museum, a place where the storied history of our nation will be told in depth through the lens of the U.S. Marshals Service.
In working with the people of the Marshals Service, I found an incredibly talented group of people that are focused on what they do, but they don't even get a chance to tell people or show people. We'd like a museum where our employees can take their children and their grandchildren and show them what they were a part of. Fort Smith did an exceptional job of telling us that this is our home. Back in the 1800s, when Judge Isaac Parker, a federal district judge, was responsible for the Indian Territory, there were more deputy marshals in Fort Smith than in the rest of the country combined. Many of the families stayed, and we found that there are more deputies and marshals buried in Fort Smith than in any other place we could find. So there's a true legacy.
We have a design for our building. It is a very unique, iconic design for a national museum. It was designed by Cambridge 7 of Boston and Polk Stanley of Little Rock. Our exhibits were designed by Christopher Chadburn Associates, also of Boston, who designed the exhibits at Mount Vernon. It will be absolutely top flight.
A great opportunity to encourage and promote the education of U.S. history. The U.S. Marshals Museum will provide visitors with an unforgettable, interactive, and educational experience. And for the brave who serve in its capacity, their time spent as a marshal and their unique place in history will forever be cemented.
Educational programming will be the hallmark of the U.S. Marshals Museum, programming for children, for families, and for adults. It'll also be an interactive and immersive experience. And so when families or children or even adults come to the museum, they'll be able to participate in the exhibits, not just walk through the exhibits and look at things.
We would like to think that the Marshall Museum can change lives. And to do that, we need to appeal to young people. And so our educational opportunities are designed to spark an interest in what the Marshals Service has done and to show young people that one person can indeed have an impact on American history. It's happened in the past and it can happen in the future.
Partnerships with universities, with colleges, and also with primary and secondary schools across the country will give us an opportunity to reach audiences that might not necessarily have the opportunity to come and visit the museum itself. This will be a national museum, and as such, we'll be reaching out nationally to those audiences.
The Marshal Service is in the DNA of the people of Fort Smith. We have had an incredible amount of public support from the very beginning that continues to this day. This museum is going to be housed in Fort Smith, but make no mistake about it, this is a museum of national importance, of national appeal, and it will honor a national law enforcement agency.
It's a common law agency. Other federal agencies respond to specific statutes that created them. The U.S. Marshals Service is the agency that responds to every other kind of civil disorder, whether it's protecting judges, prison uprisings, Indian problems, anything that can be covered by common law that statutory agencies can't do, hunting fugitives, moving nuclear weapons. That's the kind of thing that the Marshal Service does. They are really the utility infielder of federal agencies. When there's a problem that can't be fixed by anybody else, you go to the U.S. Marshal Service. The role of the Marshal is to enforce the orders of the court. And very often, like in the coal mine strikes in West Virginia, there's tremendous emotions on both sides, on both labor and management. And very often there's violence involved. And the whole role of the U.S. Marshal Service is if there's an injunction against violence, then it's our role to go in there and make sure that order prevails. One of the most important cases that changed the image of the service was the apprehension of Christopher Boyce. Christopher Boyce was the most damaging U.S. spy in the history of the United States. He had given the Soviets all of the codes to our spy satellites. He was serving time in Lompoc prison in California, and he escaped. And we were able to track him down in a 19-month investigation to Port Angeles, Washington, where he was actually preparing to fly a private plane to Russia. And we caught him just before he left.
When I was 19 years old, I was in search for a job to pay my way through college. I went in and applied for the United States Marshals Service as an administrative employee and a guard, and it's progressed into a career. To this point, I'm a Deputy United States Marshal. I've served as a Chief Deputy United States Marshal and several other titles within the United States Marshal Service. It's important to me and my colleagues to have a museum so that people really know what the United States Marshal Service function is, and also to show the history of the United States Marshal Service, because the United States Marshal Service has played a major role in history. In some areas it has not been clearly defined, and I think that the museum will give people more of a perspective on exactly what it is we do, how we do it.
In the early 1980s, the U.S. Marshal Service became involved in Interpol, and Interpol is an organization in Lyon, France, that has 130 member countries. And the reason that we joined it is we're constrained by borders, but criminals are not. They go anywhere they want, and because of that, we needed the help of other countries.
For the employees of the Marshal Service, this gives them an opportunity to show what they were involved in personally, what they are a part of, but it also gets to show some of the great things we've done in the past. For example, the Civil Rights Act, when we were at Ole Miss, protecting people, and how honorably and with tremendous integrity they were able to accomplish their mission. It's part of a great legacy.
The United States Marshals for over 200 years have preserved the rule of law in a democracy. That is a most important function and one that deserves to be preserved forever.
The abundant history of the U.S. Marshals Service is in fact the history of our nation. And soon, with the construction of the U.S. Marshals Museum, that history will be available for all to see, hear, and learn. The museum website offers more information. Visit it at usmarshalsmuseum.com or call the number on your screen.